Good afternoon. I like a call and response. Good afternoon. Hey, that's the way I like to hear it. Welcome, Summer Institute 2011 class. Congratulations on what will prove to be one of the best experiences in your life. As one of my favorite authors, Dr. Seuss, penned in his famous book entitled, "Oh, the Places You'll Go," congratulations. Today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. And I am so excited that you or somebody else chose this direction for you today, the AVID Orlando Summer Institute. First of all, I'd like to thank this gracious AVID staff. I don't know how I came to get this wonderful invitation to be here, but I am just so excited that they chose me. It's an honor and it's a privilege to be here and to share some of my thoughts with you. In the short time that we have together today, my plan is to share my personal story with you, as well as my AVID journey. I want to talk with you about what I have gleaned on this journey and the most important AVID lessons that I have learned. And finally, I would like to leave you with a few words of encouragement, with hopes that it will inspire you, it will motivate you as you begin or continue your AVID journey. I'm going to do all of this in about 15 minutes or even less. You see, I'm going to practice what Elizabeth Taylor told each of her 7 husbands. I won't keep you long. I have often wondered why AVID and why me. The more I think about it, the more I am truly convinced that this program was perfectly designed for Vanessa. I just happened to be born before its time. You see, both of my parents had very humble beginnings. They grew up in a rural North Carolina community that was very poor. And when they were young, they spent most of their time working on a farm. So hey, they had few opportunities to attend school. Now, even though my parents grew up poor, with very little or formal education, they always ascribed to what I call middle-class values. My parents wanted the 3 of my siblings and me to go to college. They saw education as a gateway to a better life, and everything they did was to that end. You see, they relied on educators like all of you out there to teach me about college and college readiness, because to them that was a foreign topic. They knew nothing about preparing anybody for college. Let me tell you how this played out in my life. When I started the 10th grade, I noticed that my schedule had advanced chemistry on it. And I didn't sign up for advanced chemistry. My counselor, Mr. Johns, had placed me in that class, and I was livid, but more than being livid, I was simply terrified. I could not do advanced chemistry. I kept saying that to myself. When I walked into that chemistry class, I didn't see any of my friends, and I was the only student of color in that class. As soon as the period was over, I rushed to my counselor's office and I told him, "Sir, you made a mistake in that schedule, and I should be in regular chemistry, not advanced chemistry." Now, he had the nerve, the audacity, to look at me and tell me that no, he had not made a mistake. That was not a mistake at all. He placed me in that class and he told me I was going to stay there. Now, I was a quiet, unassuming kind of person. I didn't ruffle any feathers, but I felt like this was something I had to fight for. I was not going to stay in that class. I told him I'm not staying in advanced chemistry, and he needed to change my schedule, and he needed to change it now. Now, Mr. Johns, in his very casual manner, told me, "If that is what you want, Vanessa, I'll do it. I just need to call your parents, get their permission to take you out of the class, but that'll be okay, I'll do that." Well, you know what happened. At that point, my heart sank because I knew the phone call was going to be the kiss of death for me. I heard Mr. Johns talking to my mom, and then he had this funny little smirk on his face like, "I gotcha." He handed me the phone, and after a few choice words from my mom, I sheepishly returned to that advanced chemistry class. My mom believed in her heart that educators were the experts, and she entrusted them to guide me in the direction I needed to go. My mom depended on Mr. Johns. How dare Vanessa, she said, question his advice. When I got home, my mom, in no uncertain terms, let me know that she really wasn't pleased with what I did. To be honest, that advanced chemistry class was tremendously hard for me. But taking that class proved to be a really turning point in my life. I gained so much confidence in my ability to handle rigorous coursework, and I really at that point became a believer in myself. I broadened my friend base in school, and I was enriched as a result of it. Now, this is what AVID does for students, and this is what the parents out there, they may not say it to you, they may act the quite opposite of it, but this is what they expect of us educators, to take their children, open their minds to possibilities beyond anything they could possibly believe in or imagine. Now, I want you to stop for a moment, and because many of you are that kind of educator, all of you hopefully are that kind of educator, join me as we give the educators in the past and the present a round of applause in appreciation for their hard work. That was really strategic. I knew I would need some water then, so that was good. Now, AVID provides the perfect environment for this to occur. In AVID, we all must be advocates for all students and work to create a synergy that will level the playing field as we work diligently, not only to close achievement gaps. I really want people to understand that, but also to close opportunity gaps. That's very important. Now, so why AVID, why me? Now, my school district in Newport News, Virginia, implemented AVID over 17 years ago. Our district was in a turmoil because we had publicized the results of a curriculum audit, which highlighted tremendous disparities in achievement in Newport News. We were what one would call a minority-majority district, yet we had few minorities in our AP and our advanced courses. Now, there were also a lot of prerequisites in those classes. Our new superintendent removed all of those prerequisites, revamped our honors and our AP classes, and directed the schools to recruit more students for those courses. In turn, the superintendent directed his staff to look for some supports that would help students who were taking those advanced classes for the very first time. Now, the perfect storm in Newport News was about to occur because the superintendent had attended a conference. He sat beside this bubbly, excited teacher who talked nonstop about this wonderful program that she was working in, how it was touching kids, and that she loved it. She sat beside him and talked the entire time about this program. And after some research, he went back to the district and said, this is what we need to help support students. That summer, I saw an advertisement for an AVID teacher. I was a school counselor. I worked every summer. And so I really said, this is something I want to try. This is right up my alley. And then again, I thought, this is Vanessa. I applied, earned the job, and my journey with AVID began. I attended a summer institute in San Diego with 3 colleagues, and I left that institute energized and excited. Now, while we were at the summer institute, and don't let this happen to you, somebody chose the students to be in our AVID class. But do you know what? When we got back, no one would admit that they had chose those students to be in our AVID class, because they really had no clue as to what AVID was all about. Most of the students thought that the program was a study hall, it's an easy A, I'm just going to surf through this class and have a lot of fun. As you can imagine, that pilot year was quite tumultuous and a tremendous learning experience for our teachers in our district. We made so many mistakes. Our local newspaper characterized the program as one for low-income, underachieving, minority students. My students were highly offended. How dare them say that about us? Now, it was true. Most of them were poor. It was true. Most of them were students of color, but they didn't have to print that in the newspaper for the whole world to see. They were offended by that. In our first year of AVID, our site team meetings were truly support sessions. It was like a counseling group. We cried on each other's shoulders, and everyone threatened to quit, teachers and students alike. September to December was a real stressful time. However, miraculously, and this might happen for some of you all, in January, the students stopped fighting us. They started fighting us less. We were becoming a family, and the teachers were beginning to see glimmers of hope in them. My colleagues started to get on board and understand AVID, and the next school year, we implemented the program district-wide. And we're a mid-sized district, so we had a lot of students in our program, in the AVID program back then. And we're not calling it a program now, it's a system. We learned many lessons from the early implementation of AVID that I think will help you today. First of all, we learned that in AVID, you must empower students, not mollycoddle them. I can remember the first AVID year, an English teacher came to me and said about this student called Troy. Troy, Miss Whitaker, Troy will never pass honors English. Now, I was really taken aback. I asked her, why are you saying that he won't pass honors English? She told me that Troy was unfocused and rarely turned in his vocabulary work. Now, Troy was a bright, intelligent young man. He was energetic, but he was from one of our more economically challenged neighborhoods. He had an abundance of energy and he loved to have fun. Now, because I had developed this special relationship with Troy and created a family atmosphere in the AVID classroom, I was able to approach Troy in what I call my very special way. I hunted him down. And I had a long talk with him. I told him in no uncertain terms that he would make a believer of his English teacher because for the next month that he would spend his lunchtime with me doing his English vocabulary work. Now, as a result of experiences like that, many of my students would say that having me as an AVID teacher was like having your parent living right there in school with you. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The second lesson learned was always to keep in mind that in AVID, you're not just educating students, you are really educating entire families. And that brings to mind a story about a student of mine named Tammy. Tammy was a bright young lady who joined our AVID program in the 9th grade. She was very responsible, she worked hard in school, and she worked even hard out of school. Her family was not very involved in her education. As a matter of fact, Tammy usually showed up at most of our school events alone by herself. She had 3 other sisters who all had babies at a very young age, and they never finished high school, and she had 2 younger siblings. You see, Tammy was not only going to be the first-generation college student in her family, she was going to be the first-generation high school student in her family. To our amazement, in our senior years, we were working with her to get her applications done. Tammy's mom became an obstacle. She became a stumbling block for us. She refused to do anything to help her prepare for college. She wouldn't sign any forms. She refused to fill out that financial aid application. You see, Tammy's mom didn't really want her to go to college. Tammy was a breadwinner. She was working 2 jobs and bringing home a check every week just for her mom. When we went to Tammy's house to plead her case and to solicit the support of her mother, we didn't have any idea how that would turn out. Perhaps Tammy's mom would not talk with us. Perhaps she would even throw us out. However, Tammy's AVID teacher and I had what I call and what AVID calls a WIT philosophy. We were going to do whatever it takes to make sure that Tammy had an opportunity to realize her goal of, guess what she wanted to be? A social worker. I am proud to say that we went to that house. There were tears. I cried, Mom cried, Tammy cried, AVID teacher cried. We had a lengthy discussion. Mom didn't want Tammy to go to college because she felt she was going to lose her. She felt that she was going to lose the financial support, and she was also going to lose her to education. We talked with her mom, and her mom finally consented to sign the necessary forms. And 4 years later, see, we didn't burn any bridges with Mom. 4 years later, we sat with Tammy's family. Get it together, Vanessa. We sat with Tammy's family in that stage, and watched her walk across the stage to get her college degree. Join me. Tony was not going to do that. I told one of my colleagues I wasn't going to do that, but every time I tell that story, I get so filled because she wanted that college degree so much. And we really had to, this was a child that we had to visit her at college, give her things to make it happen for her. You see, we were able, because of that opportunity, not to just change Tammy's life, we changed the trajectory of that family. Those younger siblings were in a better position because of what we did. And even the girls that hadn't finished their high school degree, Tammy pushed her sisters to do that. So always keep in mind, you are not just educating AVID students. You're educating families and communities. You're changing the future when you work with this program. Now, I know of numerous students who, despite having the odds stacked against them, they made it out of some pretty horrific situations. You know them, students who were homeless, indigent, or simply starved for an adult positive person in their life. These students are now our teachers. They're now CEOs and entrepreneurs. We've got to make sure that we educate families as we're educating students. The third lesson that we learned in our implementation with AVID was to stay true to AVID, to stay true to the fidelity of what AVID is all about. I promise you, if you stay true to that, you're going to reap some impressive benefits. One of the most impressive and consistent indicators of AVID's success is the rate at which it sends students to four-year colleges. Now, you're going to have similar results if you stay true to those AVID essentials. Now, I'd like to, and you all indulge me, because I'm just going to do this. You, in AVID, you cannot do this alone. And in Newport News Public Schools, I never did it alone. So I'm going to do some shout-outs to people that really were important and integral to our success in AVID. And you can wear these roles and labels, too. I want to thank our past AVID Newport News staff for inspiring me as a district director and helping our school system really in our AVID journey. You see, people like Sammy Logan and Deirdre Robinson and Ben Moore, they are awesome. They are teachers who believed passionately in our AVID students. Ivy Lee was a master AVID coordinator who not only set high expectations for all, but Ivy knew how to help us live up to those expectations. Zeke Zimmerman, who was an administrator, Chenoa Reed, who was one of our former AVID tutors that became a counselor and then came here to Florida to work as a teacher, and Sonia McKeithen, a former professional school counselor, they all shared their big hearts with students, and they transformed lives. I saw them do things that teachers would never do for kids, just to make things happen for them. Empowering students, educating families, and implementing AVID with fidelity are lessons that my Newport News colleagues and I learned. Now, I've talked with you about why AVID, why me. Now let me talk with you about why AVID, why you. As teachers, you have the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of your students. But as an AVID teacher, as an AVID person, you have an opportunity to make the difference in lives, but you have the opportunity to change and transform lives and help students realize dreams. Now, take advantage of this AVID Summer Institute. AVID has an awesome AVID has awesome staff developers, and they are truly committed to providing you with a dynamic learning experience. Now, if you're new to our AVID family, you may feel a little bit overwhelmed initially, but please keep in mind that the staff developers have the whole week to work with you. Don't walk into your strand expecting to get it all on day one. They've got that whole week to work with you. Keep in mind that as you hear about the practices and strategies used in AVID, you want to have an open mind. The research base for the AVID College Readiness System is extensive, and it proves that AVID works. Now, whether you're a teacher, and who are the teachers out there? Raise your hands. Fantastic. Whether you are an administrator or a principal, who are you? Take your props. Good job. If you're a tutor, who are the tutors? Fantastic. See a few hands out there. If you're students, let me see your hands. There you go. Or if you're a district director, I know we have district directors out there. Or if you're AVID staff members, raise your hand. AVID staff. See, all of us are the key to the success of the AVID program. If all of us work collaboratively, if everybody works collaboratively with your site team to learn your role, you can support this program. Take advantage of networking opportunities. See, the Summer Institute participants are from diverse schools and communities. Everybody, look to your left. Look to your right. Did you see those bright and talented people? Did you see them? Learn from one another. Don't start talking about each other now. Learn from one another. Remember, you're part of something that's much bigger. AVID is not a program. It is a movement. It's a system. It's a college readiness system. Now, know that your students will expect you to be their coach and cheerleader. The students want all of us to really connect with them on a daily basis, not just with academics. Now, I say young people, and I'm looking at these bright young people in front of me, I say that you have many societal and personal stressors in your lives. As we're pushing them to succeed academically, we must also enhance their skills and use those teachable moments not to preach at them, but to help them gain greater insights. And listen, everybody in here, do not settle for mediocrity from your students or from yourself. Your students are watching you, adults, to see how you react to situations and to stress. We have to be an example to them. Now, however you came to be included in this gathering, I want you to know that I have no doubt that if you open your minds and your hearts, and you will find this week one of the most innovating and life-enhancing experiences that you have ever had. Now, I'm about to close. Smile. I know some of you have been timing me. Okay. Now, since I have contributed to both the economic growth of Atlanta and Morehouse College through my child's education, we're not in Atlanta, so I can say that, I am determined to get a little something out of this deal. So I'm going to use as a closing quotation one from Dr. Benjamin Mays, who is a former Morehouse president. And it simply reads, and it really is simple: it must be borne in mind that the tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. It isn't a calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity not to dream. It is not a disaster to be unable to capture your ideal, but it is a disaster to have no ideal to capture. It's not a disgrace not to reach the stars, but it is a disgrace to have no stars to reach for. Not failure, but low aim is a sin. Go forth, AVID Summer Institute participants, and gain an arsenal of tools to help our students hold fast to their dreams. Have a wonderful Summer Institute, and thank you.